Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, Lee Martin, here to talk some UFC. Joining me today, like always, I have SBR's UFC expert, Dave Manyun, and MMA Mania's lead host, Matt Ryan. Now, before we get into this weekend's fight, just go ahead, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel so you never miss a show. Now, coming up this weekend, December 19th, it is sadly our last fight night of the year, and it's going to be a stacked card, so I am pumped. Even the prelims look good because, you know, my girl Sajara Eubanks is in there. But before we jump into this upcoming weekend's main card breakdown, I just want to do a little recap of what happened over the weekend. We had Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno for the main event. Now, I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Dave, I'm going to start with you and I want to hear how your weekend went.
You know what? It was going great until somebody jinxed me and said that they had the exact same plays besides Mackenzie Dern, and then what'd you have it? Mackenzie Dern gets handed a decision. And you know what? That for me, that fight was a draw, if anything. For me, Dern didn't really do anything significant, and neither did Jandiroba. So, but it is what it is. What an event it was, I must say. Shocked at the decline of Tony Ferguson. I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want it to be real, but I think this hype train on Charles Oliveira is not, it's not steaming through like a Chimaev train. I'm telling you that, because this is a Tony Ferguson who, you know, he's 38 years old, and we do have to look. You look hard at that Justin Gaethje fight. He didn't want to be in. He was wincing in pain. Like that's and that's just, you know, that's the icing on the cake of a career that Tony Ferguson has had, and he's been through wars. So for that to happen, I was not surprised. I was just a bit upset about, the way that fight panned out for Tony. It was rough. He got absolutely dominated. And then obviously the main event, that speaks for itself. The fact that it was a draw, them two went to war, and I can't wait to see that fight again. It was a losing week for me. It's quite rare that I have to say this. I was down this week, and it was my first losing prediction, straight up picks the entire card. First time I lost since I started doing precise picks on my Twitter since July. So that was a tough pill to swallow, but we'll move on and hit it up this week. Hopefully get some winners.
Yeah, this weekend will definitely be much better. But I must say, I feel like it was a rough night for everyone because it started off for me with Billy Q, and let me tell you, what was that? He looked horrible. But Matt, before I get ahead of myself, I just want to hear how your weekend went.
It was a fun time over at Combat Culture. We had a great time. Thanks to everybody who showed out and joined us on the stream. It was a very interesting night. We saw some things like the fight with Mackenzie Dern. That fight kind of deserved to be on the main card. We saw the last prelim also, earned its spot on the main card. But that main event, a lot of people were talking about it as fight of the year, and hard to make an argument against it. Both of those guys brought it. And yeah, as what Dave said, I want to see a rematch. I don't want to see one immediately. I don't want them to run it back at 257. I want both of these guys at the top of their game. And Figueiredo coming out and saying he was in the hospital till 2 o'clock in the morning the night before the fight. That to me just shows he's got the heart of a champion and that he is a legitimate crazy person. To go through a 5-round war. I woke up this morning with a little bit of agita in my stomach. I'm like, do I really want to do the show today? And then, it ended up being just, that's how much of a bad mother effer that Deiveson Figueiredo is.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely excited for that rematch. But let's move on to this upcoming weekend. Again, December 19th, we're back at the UFC Apex. We have UFC Fight Night 7, Thompson versus Geoff Neal. And I'm just going to jump right into that main card breakdown because we have a lot of fights to cover. So let's start off. We have welterweight Anthony Pettis versus Alex Moreno. Via BetOnline, Anthony Pettis is -230 and Alex Moreno is +195. Dave, I'm going to start with you for your breakdown and pick for that first fight.
Yeah, this is the co-main event, right?
Co-main is Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera.
Oh, right, because, I must have got my list wrong. Anyway, it's Anthony Pettis versus Alex Moreno. This is, it's a sticky one, I must say, because, you know, we've got an Anthony Pettis 23-10 versus Alex Moreno 18-6. Their experience doesn't seem too far apart, right? You dig deep into Anthony Pettis. This guy has been he's been Showtime for a long time. Been following this guy since his WEC days, and if you are a long time UFC viewer, you'll know the Anthony Pettis highlight reel from early on in his career is absolutely incredible. Knockouts over, you know, Donald Cerrone. He's tapped Benson Henderson and Gilbert Melendez. To be fair, when you look at Anthony Pettis' career, it's hard to find somebody who he hasn't fought. He's literally brimmed through the ringer, and now this is one of them drops in competition. And I've spoke about this before, and it's like Alex Moreno versus former champion and, you know, top 5 for a long time Anthony Pettis. I'm struggling to find a case for Moreno. I really am, and, you know, I can search all day long. I just don't think it's going to happen. I've got a funny feeling. I'm seeing a lot of people high on Moreno. I'm not sure why. I understand that Pettis has been through, you know, some rough wars in recent times, but every single opponent that Anthony Pettis fights is of championship caliber, and that's just facts. For me, it's going to be Anthony Pettis inside the distance, and I can't see this going any other way, to be quite fair. I like Pettis. I'm not sure what his odds are sat at right now. But I'm going to assume he's the favourite. I can't see him not being a heavy favourite in this one. I think Pettis can go to work and show us one of them highlight reels that he used to show us. And yeah, for me, it's Anthony Pettis. Showtime all day, baby.
Anthony Pettis is minus 230 and Morono is plus 195. So just to let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to be that high, but I mean, it's still, you know, after what I've just said, you know, that line does kind of make sense. It's a guy in Alex Morono who, you know, I can't talk too much on him because he hasn't done all that much. He had a fight against I think it was Reece McKee, and he won the unanimous decision, but that was a close fight. And this Reece McKee. This is not, you know, this is not Donald Cerrone or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson that is fighting. And before that, he obviously suffered a brutal knockout loss to Kalinn Williams, who is also on this card. And I think Anthony Pettis can do the same. Anthony Pettis is a more technical and precise striker than Kalinn Williams has, and he also has the power. So I think Pettis can get this done within 2 minutes, to be quite honest.
All right. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave, or do you have a different take for that fight?
Well, when you're looking at on paper here, if 6 fights for both fighters, Morono has gotten more successful trips to the octagon. But let's take a look in this last 6-fight run. As Dave said, the win over Donald Cerrone back over in May, preceded by 2 losses to Carlos Diego Ferreira and Nate Diaz, but then a win over Saturday's main eventer Stephen Thompson, a loss to Tony Ferguson, and a win over Michael Chiesa. So when you're looking at levels of competition, and Dave pointed it out brilliantly, Anthony Pettis only faces high-level competition. He faces championship-caliber opponents. So you can make that argument that Morono might be putting himself in that class. The Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby may be putting him in that distinction. I'm not sure if he's ready yet. Anthony Pettis is going to look to build off of his win against Donald Cerrone and really try to build himself back up as a fighter and try to really get himself back into the swing of things. But I'm going to go with Pettis. I'm not going to be as confident as saying it's in the distance. I think the deeper this fight goes, the better it is for Morono. So we're going to see a lot of pressure from Pettis early. But I'm not comfortable going all out and saying that Showtime kicks him out in the first couple rounds.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. If you want to get on that fight, again, via Bet Online, Anthony Pettis is minus 230 and Alex Morono is plus 195. Let's move on to the next fight. We have heavyweight Marcin Tybura versus Greg Hardy. Via Bet Online, Tybura is minus 102 and Greg Hardy is minus 118. Matt, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for that fight.
So Marcin Tybura has gone the distance in his last 3 fights and has won all of them against Sergey Spivak, Maxim Grishin, and Ben Rothwell. Now, we're not talking about the creme de la creme of the UFC heavyweight division. Ben Rothwell is a man who could bring it to the fight every single time, and we saw that in October. Those two had a pretty solid fight. But when you're looking at Greg Hardy here, he's 2 wins in a row, getting his first decision win against Yorgan De Castro, and then dropping Maurice Green back on Halloween. This is another tough test for Greg Hardy, a guy who we keep counting out because of everything surrounding him. When we go back to his first fight in the UFC and the illegal knee, I was there for that in the Barclays Center. If you go back to Inhalergate, if you go back to his reaction after that DQ loss and how he assailed and pretty much blamed the press for the loss. And you don't know what Greg Hardy you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get the killer inside that cage, the guy that was knocking people out in prelim, in his early days at the Contender Series and as an amateur fighter, or are you going to get the guy that gets outpaced during the course of a fight? I want to go with Tybura here. I think that Tybura is going to press him for 15 minutes, make him work, make Greg Hardy try to use everything in his arsenal, and he'll probably gas out Hardy early. We have not seen Greg Hardy at a peak yet, but I don't know if he'll ever get there, and I think that that's a great strategy for Tybura. Just wait, lie in wait, keep the pressure on, and make Greg Hardy suck wind for 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, how about you, Dave? What's your take for that fight?
Yeah, the experience here is significant for me. Do you know what? I'd rather see the more explosive Greg Hardy progress in his UFC career over a guy like Marcin Tybura. And I'm usually really high on Hardy, but he is stepping up a little bit in this one. Alexander Volkov versus Greg Hardy is a great example of how to weather the storm of Greg Hardy. Throw in some low kicks, some front kicks. But if Tybura shows any hesitancy and Hardy gains a little bit of confidence here, I do feel like it could end quick. Although Hardy has a small resume, okay, and little experience in comparison to Tybura, that Volkov fight was huge for his small MMA resume. He went the distance, and you know what? He lost that fight on volume. He was a little too late to the punch. But what I did notice is his cardio held up, and he had moments of overpowering Volkov on the cage. And since that fight, I see Greg Hardy evolving. Marcin Tybura is the same. He's a journeyman. I don't see him getting better from fight to fight. I know what he's going to bring to this fight. So for me, it's a big help. Watching that Ben Rothwell scrap that Marcin Tybura had, it gives a great example of when Tybura cannot control his opponent against the cage. He has no choice but just to stand there and strike. And I think in a striking battle that Greg Hardy can win. I really do. Tybura is going to do what he does, hold guys up against the cage and try and hit them and, maybe potentially get a takedown. But if that doesn't happen, he's going to be stood in front of a big athletic Greg Hardy who's going to be swinging for the fences. And I think across the 15 minutes that Tybura can find himself in that pocket, and I've got a funny feeling that Greg Hardy is going to knock him out. The Yorgan De Castro fight, Hardy looked great in my opinion. He made adjustments during that fight, and he took all 3 rounds on a decision. His movement, his range of strikes looked more versatile, and do you know what? He's so quick on the feet during the first half of his fight before that cardio slips a little bit that I just think he can outstrike Tybura and be the more skilled, look like the more skilled striker in there. Because if you look at the De Castro fight, on paper, De Castro is the better striker. But Hardy still won and took all 3 rounds because of the hard work and his athleticism. Hardy is, for me, definitely evolving at that new generation rate where we're seeing it from fight to fight. He's getting better. And I'm siding with Greg Hardy on this one, I think. It's not something you're going to run to the bookies, slapping all your money down. But for me, I'm going with Greg Hardy in this one. I think he can get the knockout, actually.
All right, great. Well, if you guys want to get on that fight again via Bet Online, Marcin Tybura is -102 and Greg Hardy is -118. Let's move on to the next fight. We have women's flyweight Gillian Robertson versus Taila Santos. Via BetOnline, Taila Santos is -110 and Gillian Robertson is also -110. Dave, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the next fight.
Yeah. Look, we broke down Santos, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, and she was set to fight De La Rosa. Fight was cancelled, back on the schedule real quick. I do believe she's got a tougher opponent, Gillian Robertson here. But Taila Santos, you know, she is great to watch. The problem when you're going through Santos's fight tape and looking at her old fights is the level of competition that she's fought. She's a dangerous striker. She mixes in the grappling route. She's running on an impressive streak now, bar that one loss. I just think the problem here that De La Rosa was a more suitable opponent, where Robinson's going to pose some more dangerous threats, I believe, especially given the experience of Robinson. Santos was unable to get Barella off of her in her first round, and then her cardio disappeared. With the grappling chops that Robinson has, it could spell trouble for me. I think if Robinson can smother her and drain her, I do see Robinson being able to get her hands lifted at the end of the fight. But with that said, I do think Santos will have the advantage on the feet. Problem is, can she keep it standing? And you know what? She does like a takedown herself. Santos will attempt to take down. And this fight, really, Robinson doesn't want anything to do with Santos on the feet. We know that, okay? So it could boil down to a grappling fight. So really, you could be handicapping this fight based on who is the more proficient grappler, who is the stronger woman, who's going to be better in the grappling department. And I'm debating that, and it's just tough. But I'm going to have to edge with Santos. Why? Just because I think if it does remain standing, she's got the advantage there. We can't figure out who's the better grappler until we see it play out. It's a tough one. It really is. I do believe Gillian might be slightly better on the ground, but Santos, she's got a black belt. So, you know, I don't want to take them risks. I'm going to edge with Santos based on I believe she is the better striker. And the ground game is up in the air for me. She failed slightly versus Barella, as I mentioned, on the ground. So that is where I've obviously got a little bit of hesitancy. But, you know, yeah, it's going to have to be Santos. When I watch her striking, I just don't think Gillian Robinson's going to be able to hang there. And then in the ground game, you know, Santos could just fend that off and keep this one standing. Or she could tap her. So, yeah, it's going to be Taila Santos for me. It's a slight lean, though. It's not something that I'm strong at.
Great. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave, or do you have a different pick for that fight?
No, I'm aligned with Dave on that. When you take a look at Gillian Robinson's past couple of fights, her most recent loss came in October of 2019 when she got knocked out by Macy Barber. So Barber's no slouch. She's a tough competitor. But when you're taking a look at what she did, you know, all the things that David said, that convinces me over the line. I was a little iffy coming into this, but Dave kind of helped me see the light here. And I'm going to go with Taila Santos as well. Just looking at the knockout loss from Robertson, against Macy Barber, even though she picked up, you know, 2 wins against Courtney Casey and Bothello back at the Ortega Zombie fight. It's not enough for me. Robertson coming down from Canada, she's a tough competitor. She's someone who could sneakily get a submission win, but I don't know if she's going to be able to pull that off against Santos. I think we're going to see a lot of blood on Saturday night in some of these fights, and this is going to be one of them.
All right, great. Well, if you guys want to get on that fight again via BetOnline, Taila Santos is -110 and Gillian Robertson is -110. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Bantamweight, Marlon Moraes versus Rob Font. Via BetOnline, Marlon Moraes is -150 and Rob Font is +130. Matt, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for that fight.
All right, so I'm going with Marlon Moraes here because if you take a look at the level of competition and the fact that he's knocked out 10 humans in his professional career, he's defeated Aljamain Sterling, John Dodson, Rafael Asunciao. He faced against Henry Cejudo for the UFC Bantamweight title. He beat Jose Aldo. His last loss was to Corey Sandhagen, and Rob Font. No knock against him. Strong MMA name. Rob Font. Like, that's an impactful MMA name. If his nickname isn't Helvetica or something like that, or Bold, I'm going to be very upset. But when you take a look at some of the, you know, he lost to a common opponent in Rafael Asunciao back at UFC 226. And then 2 straight wins over Sergio Pettis and Ricky Simon. No knock on, and because when you say he beat lesser competition, it makes the other fighters look like jabronis. And these guys aren't jabronis. These are tough competitors. but there's also a lack of competition. This is the first time Font has fought in over a year. On the opposite side of the coin, this is the second fight of the year for a more experienced, tougher competitor in Moraes. I think Moraes gets it done, and I think he gets it done within the distance. Great.
Well, how about you, Dave? Do you agree with Matt? Or do you have a different pick for that fight?
No, I do agree. This is a great fight, by the way. This could be sleeper fight of the night because these two definitely know how to bring the fire. But yeah, 2020 has been a busy year for a lot of people, and Rob Font is not one of them. He's had a long layoff. I'm not sure why. I haven't researched into that. I'm not sure if he's been dealing with injuries or anything like that. But he's been off for a year. And then he returns and gets gifted a fight with the former title challenger, Marlon Moraes. So this is huge for Font. It really is. The problem is that the majority of Rob Font's losses come against this level of opponent. Now, that's concerning. He always seems to blow the big one. With that said, he's got back-to-back wins. Sergio Pettis no longer in the UFC, and Ricky Simone. That's a good win. We can't deny him that. The difference is neither of them two are title challengers, and Marlon Moraes is. Font hasn't been finished often, but if you watch his fights, those power punches always have him wobbled. His main tool, you watch the Sergio Pettis fight, his main tool is that jab. His jab is pretty damn incredible. And then Marlon Moraes, you look at his last fight against Corey Sandhagen, checked leg kicks were the problem. Now, I'm not sure that Rob Font has that same diverse striking awareness. He focuses on his boxing, which he's really good at. Stays on the outside, snaps a jab, mixed in with body shots. Font loves to walk his opponents down and just put pain on them. The problem for Font is when he faces guys with strong punches that can react well. Rafael Assunção is a good example. He got dropped, and this is a guy in Assunção who isn't really known for his striking, but he dropped Rob Font, and I believe someone like Moraes, who's a bit quicker and better in that striking department, can put Rob Font out. Moraes has got some heavy hands, and they can be disguised through them damaging leg kicks. Corey, as mentioned, he was able to fend them off. Them leg kicks, I think they're going to cause a problem for Font. They're going to take away his lead leg. They're going to take away his power. And I think Moraes can, he can emulate what Assunção did in a more devastating fashion, beat Font with the leg kicks, avoid them boxing exchanges, and I don't think we'll be seeing a judge's nod from this one. I don't think this is going to the scorecards. I've got a feeling that Moraes is going to get Rob Font out of there within the 15. Odds, well, pretty good. Pretty damn good, and I think that's just based on Moraes' recent losses that he's suffered and some of them performances. But it's uncomparable really when you look at the level of competition. This is a huge step up, and we're seeing that there's a few guys here that are taking a huge step up. So and these lines are quite close too. And this is one of the lines I'm enjoying right now. Minus 140 on Marlon Moraes, between 140 and 150. I think is great. And I think he gets the job done inside the distance too.
Great. Now, if you guys want to get on that fight again via BetOnline, Marlon Moraes is minus 150 and Rob Font is plus 130. Let's move on to the next fight. We have welterweight Michel Pereira versus Kalinn Williams. Via BetOnline, Michel Pereira is minus 132 and Chaos Williams is plus 112. Dave, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the next fight.
Well, for me, you just don't try and predict this fight. Just go straight to the under-over market and find the under 2.5. If you're happy with that price, take it. If you're a little bit more brave, maybe go for that under 1.5. I can't see either of these guys lasting. Who did Kalinn Williams fight before Al Hassan and flattened him? Wasn't it Alex Morono? Because those two burnt put some serious holes in my wallet, man. I did not expect Kalinn Williams to come out and have two successive incredible knockouts like that. So really, I'd be a dummy to sit here and say bet Michel Pereira. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. 11-1, two crazy guys here. And they have a lot of first round finishes, and when they surpass this first round, more so Williams, they tend to will, and that's not good. It's a tough fight to put your money on. Williams, he looks like he could knock out anyone, but when you glance past those first round knockouts, it starts to get a little scrappy, a little iffy on his record. Pereira is an entertainer, and that's all well and good, but doing backflips and cartwheels and all that crap, that is not smart, and that is not the type of fighter you want to be putting your money on. Do I want to put $100 on Pereira, $200? Some people put 1,000, 2,000. Do I want to put that amount of money on for them to see my guy wasting his energy before the fight has even started? Probably not. He puts himself in so many compromising positions, and it works sometimes because people ain't expecting the guy to be spinning about doing all this crazy capoeira stuff. And to be fair, he's the better martial artist between the two guys. I'm just struggling to argue against Williams for the third time and make myself look like a fool. I'm just not going to do it. So I think the under, if you're looking for a bet in this fight, is great. We're going to see a heavy boxing attack in Williams. He doesn't really offer much more. He's a boxer in the MMA world versus the capoeira, spinning kicks, cartwheel, uppercuts, gambol, nut shots, whatever it is that Pereira does. We're going to see it this weekend. I'll probably take the under. Someone's going to get flattened the way these two fight. I'm not sure what the odds are. I expect they're probably a little juiced now because everybody's probably hitting the same thing. But I think anywhere between -200 and -250 is quite reasonable.
At BetOnline, we have under 1.5 rounds, and it's -105. The over 1.5 is -125.
Yeah, you see, that's where it gets risky. And I've seen a few people have the same problem where they're unable to get the under 2.5. You really do need to sign up to some more bookmakers, because if the bookie is only offering 1.5, 1.5 can be a huge trap sometimes. And I don't like the 1.5 mark. It's a risky. 2.5 for me is where the value can be. And yeah, I do like the under 2.5, or even, you could go for the fight not to go the distance, which will be a little bit more juiced. But with these two, I think it's something that you can kick back and, feel like, well, these are not reaching the judges' scorecards because they're just two crazy guys. But yeah, let's keep it moving.
Definitely. Well, how about you, Matt? What's your breakdown and pick for the next fight?
Yeah, Dave kind of hit it on the head here. This one, it's a blink if you miss it kind of fight with both of these guys. And I cannot put my weight behind Pereira just yet. You talk about the showboating, you talk about the grandstanding. Look, I come from pro wrestling. I love gimmicks. I love all the nonsense. It brings me great joy as my dog tries to steal her entire toy box out of frame from me right now. So I love chaos, which is why I'm going with Chaos Williams. I think that taking a look at his record, the level of opponents he's had since joining the UFC, this is only his third UFC fight. He had a fight against Lorenzo Starpoli that got canceled back in March. But then you look at 2 losses against Diego Sanchez and Tristan Conley for Michel Pereira before that win over Imadev back in September. It's those mental lapses that really concern me, especially when you're fighting against someone like Diego Sanchez and you throw that illegal knee when Sanchez is past the point in his career to really get a high-level win. So if we're seeing a different Pereira in round 1, then if he's a smarter fighter, if he's a slower fighter, then I would probably want to change my pick midstream. But right now, if I were to wager on anything in this fight, I would go with Williams and also that 2.5 under.
Great. Well, if you guys want to get on that fight again via BetOnline, Michel Pereira is -132 and Chaos Williams is +112. Let's move on to the co-main. We got Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera. Via BetOnline. Always. Via BetOnline, we have Jose Aldo at -143 and Marlon Vera at +123. Matt, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the co-main.
Jose Aldo. Why do you do this to me? Why do you do this to me, Lee? Why do I have to be so mean when you take a look at Jose Aldo? 3 straight losses, a TKO, and then 2 decisions against Alexander Volkanovski, Marlon Moraes, and Peter Yan. It's all about the young folks, as Peter Bjorn and John said about a decade and a half ago. I'm going with Chito Vera here. His decimation of Sean O'Malley aside, he's a fighter that's on the rise, and I think Aldo, no matter how much you love him, how destructive of a force he is, we've been seeing this with Jacare, we've been seeing this with a lot of high-level, older fighters. This is a make-or-break fight for him. This might be Jose Aldo's last fight in the UFC. They're getting cut happy with a lot of veterans, and if I was Bellator, PFL 1, Zambui Championship Combat in East Timor, I don't know. But if I'm any of those MMA organizations, I'm watching this fight with great interest because you may be able to pick up a huge draw. And you may be rooting for Jose Aldo to lose here just so he comes on the market. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Jose Aldo. I don't know if he'll react well to it. We've seen him in high-pressure situations before, like the McGregor fight. We don't know if he'll be able to turn it around here. So I'm going with Chito Vera. I want to be wrong, by the way.
All right. Well, how about you, Dave? Do you agree with Matt? Or do you have a different pick for the co-main?
Do you think I would go against Jose Aldo? You can't call yourself a UFC fan. Get this man off the stream. Lock him off the stream.
I don't want to root against him.
No. Look. Do you know what? Matt makes some good points, but I'm just not on the same. I'm not on the same team right here. Just strictly because I'm not that high on Marlon Vera, to be quite honest. Prior to the Sean O'Malley win, he hadn't really done anything. He was coming off a loss to Song Yadong. A TKO win over Andre, okay. He subbed Hernandez, okay. And then, the other names are not even worth mentioning. He's now fighting, one of the greatest featherweight champions that's ever existed. And look, we can look at how Aldo's losses.
A decade ago, Dave.
Look. This is going to be a striking contest, I believe, because there's no way that Chito is going to get Aldo down. That's just not going to happen. I don't really see much grappling at all, really, unless Aldo decides he wants to grapple, because let's not forget he's extremely good on the ground, but that has been smoked out by his incredible striking skills. I'm struggling to find a way that Marlon Vera can win this fight. Of course, anyone can catch that lucky strike and that knockout, but for me, Aldo beats this guy in all positions. Aldo has got an incredible Muay Thai offense. He is really good at striking and strikes at distance, boxes on the inside. He's nasty in the clinch and will be the stronger grappler. His takedown defense is solid, and I don't see Marlon Vera being able to do anything. Aldo's losses were not without a war. Losing to the current champion, Peter Yan, that is nothing to be ashamed of. And look, Aldo won a couple of them rounds. You go back to round 2 and watch Jose Aldo outspeed Peter Yan. Like, that's what I'm here for. I am not looking at Aldo and his losses and saying, oh, Aldo's lost. I'm looking at what he's doing in them fights. And to be fair, a lot of people scored the Marlon Moraes fight in favor of Jose Aldo. So he's taken on these younger guys, and yeah, okay, he's losing, and okay, he did get TKO'd, but before the knockouts, he's not getting dominated, and in the decision fights, they're really, really close. Look, he's not in his prime. It's not, it's not the champion Aldo that we used to know and love, but this is not a guy who is done and out. He is not finished yet. The speed of his leg kicks and the timing of his reactions are still on point. And look, he did well against Petr Yan, in my opinion, especially how everybody thought Yan was going to absolutely dominate him and put him out within a couple of rounds. I just don't see it happening. This is a huge drop down in competition for Jose Aldo. This is even giving me deja vu with that Anthony Smith, Devin Clark fight, because this makes no sense for me. Marlon Vera hit a nerve in Sean O'Malley's leg, which caused his ankle to collapse, which left him on the ground, and Marlon Vera is vicious in ground and pound. If Marlon Vera could get Aldo to the ground and keep him there, I think he could win this fight via ground and pound, but he is not taking Jose Aldo down. Not a chance. Jose Aldo's got hips made out of cement. You are not taking that man down. Whenever anybody attempts to take him down, it's a very hard task. find me more than a couple of clips of Jose Aldo getting taken down. It's not going to happen. For me, this is Jose Aldo. The odds are beautiful. I hope people continue betting the other way. Please bet on Marlon Vera. Bring Jose Aldo to plus money for me by fight night. I think Jose Aldo could even knock out Marlon Vera here, but Vera is tough. He is a tough dude, and it is only 3 rounds. So I'm going to say Jose Aldo by decision, dominates every round with strikes.
Wonderful. Now, if you guys want to get on the co-main, again, via BetOnline, Jose Aldo is -143 and Marlon Vera is +123. Let's move on to the main event. We have welterweight Stephen Thompson versus Geoff Neal via BetOnline. Thompson is -101 and Neal is -119. Dave, I am going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the main event.
This is an incredible fight. Geoff Neal is a lucky boy because he goes from a fight with Neil Magny, and then that falls through. In all honesty, Neil Magny probably ended up watching Thompson and was like, nah, forget that. Nobody wants to fight this guy. It's been really hard. So fair play to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson for putting his ranking up and taking this fight, because there's just not many people that are gonna accept a fight with Geoff Neal right now. He is the only person to knock out Mike Perry. He put a chin on Perry's face, bombarded him with just precision strikes. There's a difference. You'll see a guy, swinging, going crazy, and then you'll see a guy who will go crazy, but they will be precise, straight to the chin. He's such a dangerous striker, and the speed of Neal is one of the reasons why he's been so successful. His speed is ridiculous. He's now fighting a guy in Stephen Thompson who is a world-class counter striker. It's such an interesting stylistic matchup, in my opinion. And it's extremely difficult for me to side with either one of these guys. Neal is going to come forward, vicious pressure moving forward. He's going to want to earn that respect early of Stephen Thompson. Well, Thompson's just going to be dancing around, counter-striking him all night. You can't let that do. I think Neal can rush Wonderboy here and just forget the chess game that Thompson is probably looking to play across the 25 minutes and just get this done early. Because if Geoff Neal hangs around with Thompson for too long, Wonderboy is a smart guy and his fight IQ is really up there with the best. He can adapt through these fights. He's very good at striking and learning about striking and giving tips on striking. I'm going Geoff Neal. It's a slight lean. When I see moments like Darren Till chasing Wonderboy down and connecting, Anthony Pettis found a lot of success landing his output on Wonderboy. It does say to me that, Wonderboy is not down and out, but people are connecting a lot more than they may have back in the day. And we know what Wonderboy is going to bring. Wide karate stance, is light on his feet. He's going to be switching stances every 2 seconds and just waiting. That's Thompson's game. Waiting for the incoming attack and get ready to counter. He's going to know Neal's favorite strikes, and he's going to he's going to egg Neal to bring them strikes on because he's already got the counter in his head. I don't think Neal's going to fall for his game. There might be a little bit of hesitancy where Neal's not giving him what he wants. But at the end of the day, I think Neal's the faster. He's younger. He's going to be stronger, and he's got that knockout power. So for me, it's Geoff Neal.
Wonderful. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave, or do you have a different pick for the main event?
Yeah, no. This one's it's a pick'em in a sense, but then you take a look at Geoff Neal. As Dave said, he dropped Mike Perry, first person to do so. He's got wins over Nico Price, Bilal Muhammad. He's got a collection of wins that really build up to a fight like this. Good on Stephen Thompson, as Dave said, for taking this fight. We last saw him back in November at 244. Sorry, my eyes are going wonky. Since 2019 against Vicente Luque. So this is an interesting situation for Thompson. For me, this is Geoff Neal's fight to lose. And I think he does it inside the distance. I don't think this is going to go the full 25. So I'm going to go with Neal here as well. And I think it's going to be by a stoppage of some sort.
All right, well, there you guys have it. Again, via Bet Online, if you want to get on that fight for the main event, Thompson is -101 and Geoff Neal is -119. Well, that is all I have for this weekend's fight main card breakdown. We have UFC Fight Night, Stephen Thompson versus Geoff Neal this Saturday, December 19th. And yes, it is our last breakdown of the year. We won't see you guys until next year. They believe the next fight will be January 16th. If I'm correct, yes, January 16th. It's been a wonderful, strange year, but fun year. All right. Again, if you guys aren't following the guys on Twitter, you can follow Dave at @DManyun_, and you can follow Matt at MRyan Consulting. And while you're at it, just give SBR a follow at SBR Sports Picks. If you like more breakdowns and picks from all of SBR's UFC experts, including Dave's articles, just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC. All right, I wish you all the best of luck this weekend, and I'll see you next year.